Should I share my screen already?
We're live, and if you want to share your screen, go right ahead.
Hi, my name is Pablo Aragon. I'm a research scientist at the Wikimedia Foundation research team. I would like to welcome you to the March 2023 Research Showcase. Showcases are monthly seminars organized by members of our team to recognize and share relevant recent research on Wikimedia projects. We kindly ask that attendees follow the friendly space policy and the universal code of conduct. Before starting, I have two announcements. First, as many as you might know, Wiki Warsaw will be held as a standalone virtual event on May 11. The call for contributions is open until March 23rd, which is Thursday next week. And in this 10th edition, we are welcoming submissions in the form of 2-page extended abstracts, will be non-archival, covering work already published, under review, or even ongoing research. The second announcement is that a survey has been launched to collect feedback on research showcases. You will find the link on the Wikimedia Research mailing list and also on the YouTube chat of this showcase. Please help us improve future sessions. And with that, let's start today's showcase. March is Women's History Month, so the topic could not be other than gender and equity. When it comes to knowledge equity, we must note the many different gaps of knowledge existing on Wikimedia projects. These gaps, identified as part of the taxonomy of knowledge gaps, can be visible in the content of the projects, as well as the people who read and contribute to knowledge. Today's research showcase is dedicated to one of these gaps, gender gap. Gender gap manifests itself not only in the content, but also in the readers and editors who access and contribute to the knowledge on Wikimedia projects across their many languages. In Wikipedia readership, women are underrepresented, as found in a study conducted by our research team. On average, we estimated that around 33% of Wikipedia readers in a given day are women. When they do come to Wikipedia, women tend to read fewer Wikipedia pages per session than men do. This gap can be extreme in some projects, such as German Wikipedia, where women tend to read as low as half the number of pages per session as men do. This gap is also present in the space of contributors. This plot shows the distribution of active editors in 2022 by gender identity. The data comes from the most recent Community Insight Survey run by the Global Data and Insights team of the Wikimedia Foundation. The answers of the survey have been sampled and weighted to be representative of all active editors by data activity and home project. And as anyone can see, gender gap is remarkable. 4 out of 5 active editors declare themselves as men. To provide context to this finding, the 2019 UNESCO study on women in science found that globally around 30% of researchers identified as women. Given the demographics of the Wikimedia movement, highly skewed towards postgraduate degree holders, this can be considered a reasonable maritime baseline. But now that I've mentioned women in science, let's finally move to gender gap in content. These two plots show the number of biography articles of scientists by gender in the English and French Wikipedia. The data has been retrieved from the Knowledge Gap Index, and for both language editions, there is a clear imbalance between male and female biographies of scientists. The percentage for other gender identities is extremely minor. But the story of gender gap on Wikipedia does not end here. While there is an imbalance in the number of biographies by male and female scientists, results are different in terms of article quality. We have found that quality increases over time. Actually, this is a general trend for most articles, not only biographies, because editors devote time and effort in extending articles. However, it is worth noting that for biographies of scientists, quality increases in recent years and is more pronounced for female scientists in comparison to the male ones. And over the past 2 decades, many Wikipedians have come together to address gender disparities in Wikipedia content, readers, and contributors. I cannot imagine such an increase in the quality of articles on female scientists, among other categories, without the hard work, conviction, and persistence of these Wikipedians. Today's research showcase is dedicated to all of those who work to address the gender gaps on the Wikimedia projects. And actually, we are honored to have a few of these volunteers with us in the room. Laurence Dubois co-founder of initiatives such as Wiki Loves Africa or Wiki Loves Women, was expected to join the showcase. Actually, she's currently running the Tell Us About Her as a challenge to improve the visibility of women in climate change, as well as their works on Wikimedia projects. But unfortunately, she had to cancel because of a last-minute emergency. But Rosie Stephenson Goodnight is with us today in the room. Could you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Thank you for that introduction, Pablo. Hi, everyone. My name is Rosie Stevenson Goodnight. I'm a very long-time editor on English Wikipedia since 2007, and also an administrator there. My work has focused on the content gender gap in maybe the last dozen years or so, particularly a community called Women in Red, which I'll talk about later today. I'm also a trustee of the Wikimedia Foundation board, but I'm here today in my capacity as a volunteer editor.
Thank you, Rosie. Shani Ebenstein-Sigalov is also present with us today. Could you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. Hi, everyone, and thanks for the invite. I am an educator, lecturer, and researcher from Tel Aviv University, and a free knowledge advocate. I've been a Wikimedian for many years now, and currently the vice chair of the Board of Trustees, and also Lyra's mom. This is dinner time, so I have her with me for now, and really excited to be here because I've been doing gender-related work for over a decade now in various capacities, and look forward to hearing the amazing research around the world and sharing some thoughts on the topic. So thanks for inviting us.
Shani. Rosie and Shani will provide their expertise in the Q&A with our speakers today. Our first speaker is Jiao Sun, PhD candidate at the University of Southern California. She will present her work that covers the first event-centric study of gender biases in a Wikipedia corpus. And our second speaker is Sneh Gupta, Senior Research Fellow at the Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University. She will present her work analyzing the Visible Wiki Women campaign on Twitter. And we are excited that Mariana Fossati and Sunshine Fiona Komusana, on behalf of the Visible Wiki Women team at Whose Knowledge Organization, are also in the room to provide the audience with more perspective and feedback after this talk. In addition to our guests and speakers, the list of attendees in our today's session includes Wikimedia staff. We have Ellen Magallanes, Senior Counsel, and Manavpreet Kaur, Associate at the Governance Committee Support Team. And as usual, members of the research team. My colleague Martin Gerlach will monitor the YouTube chat and the IRC channel for the questions from our audience to the speakers. He will pass them at the end of the presentation. And with this, I think I already talked too much, so let's pass it on to Jiao.
Thank you, Pablo, for the really nice introduction, and it's really a great honor to meet all of you. Cool, let me just get started. 1 second. Are you able to see the full screen of slides? Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you for listening to coming to this talk. And I'm Jiao Sun. I'm a current final year PhD student at University of Southern California. Today I'm going to talk about my work. It's called Mayors Elected, Women Are Married, Events Gender Bias on Wikipedia. This is actually like a work that was done about 2 years ago, and it was published on ACL 2021. Another thing I would like to mention that, people really care about gender bias on Wikipedia, and this work has got recognized by a Best Paper nomination at ACL that year. So I'm really happy to share this work with you. All right, let's get started. So first, why do we do this work? Wikipedia is a really important knowledge resource, and it has like over 200 million page views every day. For you guys who really work around this area, probably know the more accurate statistics that I do. But as a PhD student, I almost use Wikipedia every day. So like the potential imbalance of the gender occurrence on such important knowledge resource is really, like harmful, because it will carry those implicit gender bias, and it would influence people, thousands of people, millions of people who use them as a like a very important source to acquire their knowledge from. So again, let's look at one example here. Here's Loretta Young, and she is a actress in the U.S. And she was once married to Grant Withers, who is a American actor. And if you look at like their, their career, kind of like career and personal life description, you will find this under Loretta Young's career section. So here we have in 1930, when she was 17, she exposed with 26-year-old actor Grant Withers. They were married in Arizona. The marriage was annulled the next year, just as their second movie together was released. But if you look at like their marriage, like this event, it actually happens under Grant Withers' personal life section. So here we look at like Grant Withers' personal life section, and it says in 1930 at 26, she married with Loretta Young. The marriage ended in 1931, just as the second movie together released. So it was basically, like talking about the same thing, same marriage, but under different sections. This is, kind of like this kind of like imbalanced distribution of the same marriage event under different section is what we're calling here as like a potential gender bias. So let's try to like look at like in a more broader aspect. Like the background of like us really carry out this research. So again, like why this is like really important. Wikipedia, it has like slowly won the trust of public in professional tasks. For example, like public official in powerful positions of authority use Wikipedia a lot. And if you like read those news online, and even judges use Wikipedia as one of the knowledge resources to make their final judgment. So that is really impactful, and not only for the society, where like people have been using it. It is also used for pre-trained large language models to acquire them as like one of the resource. And if you look at like no matter it's like ChatGPT or it's like like any type of large language models nowadays, like Wikipedia must be one of them. So like carrying this implicit gender bias will just not only harm the human but also AI models. Towards the end, it's gonna hurt human by the end of the day. And this like implicit gender bias is what we call as a symmetric association with events with females and males. And for example, in many cultures, females are more associated with domestic activities, while males are more associated with like more career-oriented activities. And studying event bias in Wikipedia is like important. And here, like we call event as occurrence at a certain time and location involves participants. For example, like in my previous instance, like the occurrence of the event marriage happens at 1930s, and it involved participants of Loretta Young and Grant Withers. And human activities, like are essentially just sequence of events, like from the moment that we were born towards, like you got married, you have kids, and then like, we come to the end of our life. It's like essentially like a sequence of events. And bias of events on Wikipedia, again, like it may manifest and potentially amplifies the social bias. And we'll finally heard the model trained on and analysis done on such resources. Okay, so we have been talking a lot about like what we think event bias is, and why studying event bias on Wikipedia is so important. So let's look at how we did it. So here, this is the analysis framework that we are doing. So at the really beginning, in the really beginning, we have the knowledge resource, which is the Wikipedia pages, and then we use a event extraction tool. It's essentially a model that we detect events in narratives, and then we propose this odds ratio, or we kind of like repurpose the odds ratio to extract events that have a symmetric distribution for males and females. But because if we're really talking about like the event gender bias, it may come from the source itself, or it may come from the intermediate stage, like the event extraction model, right? Because like the model itself can be biased towards male or female. So how can we just like kind of like solving this or resolving this confounding from our analysis framework? That's why we introduced our final step is calibrate, where we want to offset the potential confounding that could be from the tool. In my next following slides, I'll dig deeper into each of the components, and let's talk about the techniques. So first, for the event extraction tool, it's an event extraction model trained on TP-dense dataset. And TP-dense dataset is a normally used or widely used dataset that are used to do event extraction on. So here we have like a section which is borrowed from the previous example. In 1930s at 26, it lost to Yuma, Arizona with 17-year-old actress. The marriage ended in annulment and something released. So if we use this event extraction tool, we actually got those highlighted spins at the event that got detected by the model. So how well the model is, like how good it can perform, how well it can perform. So here is a TP-dense, like the general performance. If you look at the first column, we can see that like the precision of the TP-dense, the model performance on TP-dense dataset is about 89, and the recall is 92, and F1 got it around like 91. So pretty good, like on the standard, the standard dataset. And here we also like report our model performance on our sample data. So here we have the, in overall, like in general, we have like the performance as under the second column, precision is around 94%, and recall is like 89.8, so like very close to 90%, and F1 is like 92. And if you break it down to like the performance of female instances versus male instances, you will see like a huge gap. So like pretty reliable model for us to do extraction upon. Okay, now let's look at the second part, like the odds ratio, what we call as OR, to get events that have asymmetric distribution for females and males. So like this is like really scary formulation if like how we calculated the odds ratio. But if you really break it down, like the first part is the just occurrence frequency of this event for males. And we divided it by the sum of occurrence frequency of all other events for males. So like what's the portion of like, describing these events of, like certain events under all of the events that are mentioned in Wikipedia. And we do the same for female. So you can see that like a notation of F means like is for female, and the M means is a notation for male. And we do the same. We also calculate, like the same event, how often it happens, among all the events happen to the female. So we divide it by like the male and female, and then like we can use this ratio to kind of like have the understanding of, like how many times larger would this event occur for male than female. For example, like if it's like 2 times, and for the same event, marriage, it means that marriage happened like twice as often for male than female. So we use this to rank all the events, and we got the top ones as what we see as gender bias. And the last step for calibration. The bias might come from model. That's the reason why we do the calibration in the very first place. And the like we carefully design some templates that we can really control the gender attributes. So let me ground this with an example. So here I have, at the age of 17, basically worked at a Tampa department store to make money. She began breeding show cats. She also began rescue bobcats and used llamas for a lawn trimming business. In January 1991, she married her second husband and joined his real estate business. And here's the event like we really care about is marriage. And how we do, like to measure if the like the model itself may have a bias, we just find Baskin. Okay, Baskin is the actress that we care about, and we got all the kind of like the pronouns that are actually referring to this person, and we mark all of them, and we replace it with the opposite or gender. So we replace all she with him or he, and then we replace her with his. So in this sense, we also get like how good the model will perform when the like the same event happens to the opposite gender. And towards the end, what we find is like we don't really have that much of gender bias that come from the model itself. After doing this, we detect events in the syntactic data and use the recall to calibrate the occurrence frequency. For example, like if it happens more for the female than males, and then we will divide it by this recall, and it will just give us like a kind of like punishment for this kind of uneven performance. But fortunately, again, we didn't find much gender bias from the event extraction model. So okay, by now we have been talking about like how we did the event extraction and how we extract the events that had a symmetric attribution for females and males, and we also use calibration technique to double check that our like this chain of analysis methods are actually make sense. And this is like how we do the experiment. This is the data set that we collected from Wikipedia. So we have 2 like large sections. One is career and the other is personal life. And for career, we collect female and male, and we care like same for personal life. And for occupation, we have like in total 10 occupations that we do our analysis upon. So we have acting, so we have actor, actress, writer, comedian, artist, chef, dancer, podcasters, musician. And then like we use our analysis pipeline on top of this data set. And this is our analysis pipeline, and this is how we got. So like what we're highlighting here is top 5 extracted events that occur more often for females and males in career section across 8 occupations. So for example, like here, if you look at a writer, like those diamond one, it means like life related event. So like under female career description, you all see divorce, marriage, wedding. Those appear in like more frequently for writer under their female writer under their career description. But if you look at like those more asymmetric like career events that happens for male sections, you also see election, protest. So those are either talking about conflicts or they're actually talking about career-related things. And if you look at acting, so we have divorce, wedding again. For comedian, we have birth, wedding, relocate, and for podcaster, land, married, dancer, again, married, marriage, depart, arrive. How can this happen, like for a female's career section? That's purely just about, like personal life. And if you look at the male career section, like those type of conflict and also transaction related event really stand out. And we score is more like a double check on like if our like our current finding actually like agrees with a previous more standard way of marrying the word association for different gender. And for the what about the personal life description? If you look at the personal life description, we can literally find like exactly the same thing. Under the personal life description, you will find like people still talk more about the personal life, like life related events for female a lot more than males. So we have writer, we talk about like birth, we talk about, like for acting, we have pregnant, comedian, birth, and for dancer, marriage, and for chef, like, death, born, this type of event really stand out. And for, like for male personal life section, you will see more about like transportation and a little bit life section on life, but you will still see this kind of like uneven distribution for both genders. All right, up to now, I have talked about the methodology that we have been using and the main findings that we find for our work. So let's continue. Here like a highlight. Sorry, I didn't see this. Like you will see like under dancer, like even for personal life, people talk about a word that should have been put under their like a career section. So kind of like a swap of positions, like for both career and personal life for females and males. And here I want to bring some, like kind of like discussion point. So what's the kind of like social implication of our finding? So the mixture of personal life with professional events, we think it carries implicit gender bias and would reinforce the gender stereotype. So what do we recommend? We recommend editors to, like restructure pages to ensure that personal life related events really in personal life sections and professional events in career sections. And for future editors, so please be cautious and not intermingle the personal life related events and professional events even from the start, where our like the research really comes from. That's pretty much it, and I would like to talk about the contribution of this work briefly. So here we have like a corpus of over 7,000 fragments of personal life sections and career sections from over 10,000 celebrities across 8 occupations, including actor, dancer, a writer, etc. And we conduct an event-centric gender bias study. So we use events as a lens to study gender bias at the corpus level and discover a mixture of personal life and professional life for females. And for the analysis methods, we have like a generic framework that includes a calibration technique to offset the potential confounding of gender bias in the event extraction model. And I see this analysis methods can be generally applied to like any of those kind of like bias study, especially when the corpus is given. So thank you so much for listening. And here's the data and code. If you want, like if you have additional questions or if you want more discussion, feel free to reach out to my USD email, and I'm more than happy to connect. Thank you, Pablo. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Jiao. This was super interesting.
Thank
So there will be like multiple questions. I have multiple questions already, but since we have the progress of have experts on the room today, I will give them preference today. Please raise your hands. If not, I can break the ice with a one question. So, well, in your findings,
Pablo?
you found that.
Pablo, sorry, Shani raised her hand.
Via
the video.
Thank you, Sunny. In the video. Sorry, I was looking for the emoji.
No,
Go ahead.
But finish your question, Pablo. I can go second. It's fine. Okay, Jiao, first of all, thank you so much for this research. I think it's extremely important in that it highlights an aspect of gender gap that is more difficult for us usually to showcase, right? It's very easy to say, oh, we know that there are X amount of users or editors on Wikipedia that are female, or there is an X amount of biographies, that when it comes to the actual language that we use and the construction of this inherent bias is something that is extremely difficult to teach and to demonstrate. So I think having this resource to a growing literature on the topic is really amazing. So thank you for that. My question is actually about other languages than English, because, you know, this, first of all, again, having this corpus, and I'm super excited that you shared it openly and it could be used by additional researchers, which is extremely important. But, you know, thinking of bias, it really can become much deeper when you go outside of English. And I'm kind of curious if you are thinking about that, if you have examined other languages, if it's something that you're going to look at, and how are you using Wikidata as well to do that or not? So related questions to languages in general.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shani. I think this is really a great question. And I think like not only for my work, but I think it's like generally true for all the NLP research should go beyond English, because like almost like I felt half of the research is like looking at pure English. I think this was constrained by the event extraction tools back in 2021, where we, you know, like different languages will have different tokenizer. So like how to chunk those sentences into like different pieces for conducting NLP research was a huge question back then. So if we cannot kind of like guarantee the performance of the event extraction model, and we use such model to, you know, kind of like get the essential part that we use for our study, we were very we're really worried about, you know, like if we are getting the accurate solution or not. But I think this can, you know, like given the current progress in NLP, I don't think this is a huge problem anymore. So it would be really interesting to look at other languages. Although, yeah, I think I need to dig deeper into this. But for English, I had like a tool that I can, you know, really pull out like the associated pages, you know, like for either actor. So like here's the actor, and there's a list of actors that I could really click through. So like I kind of like crawled all those pages by myself. I'm not sure if, for example, like for other country where there be like an integrated page for me to like easily do this. But yeah, I do think that will be really important, and I think the obstacle that we you know met previously wouldn't really block us anymore. So yeah, I see that as a great future work to work on.
And was Wikidata used or not in helping you extract information and track it?
Yeah, so like for this, I was purely using Wikipedia data. So it's like all the pages like from Wikipedia. And yeah, so quick answer, yes.
Thank you, Yao. I can see that Leila and Rosie, they have questions. I don't know if Rosie want to go first.
Leila, I think your hand was up before mine, no? Okay, I'll ask my question here quickly. Jiao, thank you so much for your presentation. I really enjoyed it. I want to reference the top bullet corpus section that we're looking at, the personal life sections and career sections. I'm wondering if you also saw this pulled into the lead sections. So for example, did you see evidence that in the lead section, something I've seen kind of commonly, it mentions that in addition to whatever her accomplishments are and whatever has made Jane Doe notable, it might also say that she was the wife of, she was the daughter of, and then someone else's name, a man's name with the blue link. Did you find anything like that in the work that you did in the lead section?
Oh yeah, I think that's a really great motivation of another type of bias, but here we were mostly just like extract those events. So like if you think about like you know, belongs to your like is this type of relation won't be captured by our model. So we didn't really look into that, but yeah, I think it's a great aspect to study gender bias as well.
Okay, thank you both. Leila?
Thank you so much, Joe, for this presentation. I'll build up on something Shani mentioned about languages, and I'll say if you're interested in studying other languages, which I also highly recommend, I recommend perhaps starting with looking at some of the languages that are showing patterns that already look a little bit different than English. For example, we see that the readership gap is much smaller in Romanian, Polish, Russian, Chinese, and Ukrainian languages. So if we start from one of these languages, what I'm hoping is that we see some different patterns in the data that can give us some insight about what can be different actually across that languages. And maybe we can learn something from these languages and bring back to the other languages and to the other communities, because the patterns seem to be different, at least when it comes to readership and gender representations on the reader fronts for these languages.
So do you mean that for those countries, like the gender distribution is more like imbalanced or more balanced?
So for the languages, not necessarily the countries, but for these languages, okay, what we see is that the gap of representation in readership, gender representation becomes significantly lower when compared to other languages. So we don't know why this is happening, but it's an observation, and it's worth exploring as you're thinking about content, whether that kind of a reduction in gap is also observable, for example, in the bias of the content that you see or not.
Right, that's really interesting. And where can I get this data, like the
I'll
readership?
send it to you. Yep.
Oh, okay, that's amazing. Cool.
Thank you both. Shani, do you have a question?
And just a quick direct to something Leila said, just because we just had a discussion, the whole board met in New York, and we had a discussion with our board chair, Natalia Timkiv, who happens to be Ukrainian. And she we've discussed the gender gap. And one of the things that she said is that less women seems to be arriving to Wikipedia as readers, just because there's a huge gap of content that actually interests them. So she gave the example of embroidery, which is hugely important for that culture. And she said until 2017, they didn't even have a Wikipedia article. So I think, there's the gap of missing information, right? Which is one thing. And there's the type of research that Jiao, you're doing, which is actually to look at what is already there and see how the inherent bias is being built into articles, which is much tougher to kind of figure out. So all of them are needed, just to note.
Totally. Yeah, that sounds really cool as well. Oh.
Okay, thank you for the clarification, comments, and the context. Martin, I think is there some question from YouTube?
Yes, we have one question from YouTube. I think it's a clarification question that it was asked in the dancer profession for women. It was noted that wedding is not marked as a live event, and whether that had a meaning or not, or why that was the case. I don't remember the slide, but.
Oh yeah, I think, okay, thanks for pointing it out. And I think it's like typo. There should be like a diamond here. Thanks for so much for capturing this.
Great. Any other question? Actually, I have a question I would like to share with you. So some finding that you have shown relates to the awards events in the personal life section in terms of men. It made me think about that the Oscars were last Sunday, and Ruth Carter became the first Black woman with 2 awards in the entire history of Oscars. Michelle Yeoh became the first Asian woman winning Best Actress. So there was a debate on the existing biases on the Oscars and these awards, gender, but also ethnicity, among many other biases. And I'm wondering whether you can consider taking like this data as some kind of ground truth of structural biases in our society to investigate, like whether Wikipedia content is reflecting the structural biases of our society, or in the contrary, or in addition, like Wikipedia is incorporating more biases to the ones that already exist in the society.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting aspect. But like I guess like the comparison here is, like how Wikipedia is like carrying those bias versus like how other media or like other sources actually, like, or like that ground truth actually carry gender bias. So I would say like it's really interesting to work on, but like it depends on what the other resource could be. Like we know Wikipedia is like professional editors like who have been working on those, or like at least like it's community feedback. So one person contributes and other people like will kind of like have the just volunteer themselves to like do some edits if something is not accurate. But for the other resources, for example, like if we pull out those data from Oscar website, yeah, that's great. But like that's one occupation. And how about others? Is there like an integrated place for us to like investigate this question upon or not? I think that's I would say that's like the biggest challenge over there.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I think we should, maybe there are some questions, but maybe like questions that can go to the end, to the final Q&A, so that we can guarantee, I can imagine that Shani has some comments on the state of education, but maybe we can bring those comments for all the speakers. So we can move now. Well, thank Jiao again for this very impressive work being presented here today. And now we want to see SNE's work.
Thank you. All right.
SNE, you're muted.
Yeah. Hi. Yeah, so I hope it's visible to everyone. Yeah, so warm greetings to everyone of the day. I am SNE Gupta. I'm a senior research fellow at Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University, India. And I'm really glad that Our paper was selected for the Wikimedia Research Showcase, especially in the month of March, where we are celebrating the International Women's Day. I'm going to present my paper, which is Twitter Reacts to Absence of Women on Wikipedia, a mixed method analysis of visible Wiki Women campaign. This is a co-authored paper with my guide, Dr. Kulveen Trehan. She is a senior faculty at the Guru Gobind Singh Interprether University, India. It's great to have people from Visible Wiki Women campaign here to present their view. What I am going to present here is why I chose this particular campaign and what kind of audience perspective does this campaign hold in understanding that the biggest repository of knowledge today, Wikipedia, completing almost more than 20 years, is still holding biases in terms of its readers, its contributors, its editors, and how that is incorporating and embedding into the information systems and the AI knowledge of the future. Right? So, paper is based on the concept of digital gender divide. And today, in today's time, digital inequality is one of the top 5 global risks in the world. And the COVID-19 pandemic has exposed these risks and information distribution patterns all over the world. What we are looking at is that although 3/4 of the women online today are from the global south, their representation is almost nil, whether it is in terms of visibility, whether it is in terms of the content, or whether it is in terms of being at positions of importance. So the motivation that I had for looking at this particular campaign was, how important is a Wikipedia biography to anyone? All of you here are notable people and must have a Wikipedia biography. In today's time, it acts as a digital identity marker. Somebody who's not present on the social media, and specifically if it's a notable person and is not present on Wikipedia, is not even considered important. So imagine most of these women whose achievements are unparalleled, but are not present on the page, are not present on the digital repository. Even if they are present, their biographies are not rich enough in terms of content. They do not have images. So what are we giving to the world? No role models to look at? What are we giving to the world? A digital history which does not mention the achievements of half of its population? So those were the ideas that we started this particular research. And then we looked at how digital gender gap would affect the concerns of representation and the growth of SDG 5, particularly as we are approaching the achievement of SDG 5 or the other sustainable development goals in 2030. So these digital gender gaps threaten to leave women and girls behind. It is of concern both in terms of access, participation, and representation, with the potential of unintended biases because of lack of diversity in the content that we are getting, reading, presenting, creating, and curating. So this exploratory study examined the Global New Media Advocacy Campaign, which encourages inclusion of women and improving the technology conservation, conversations, and sustainability of the feminist data, the Visible Wiki Women campaign. I think the representatives here are going to discuss more about the campaign, and Pablo has already discussed the kind of knowledge gaps that Wikipedia already has. So moving ahead, we looked at this particular campaign from the lens of sentiment analysis and feminist critical discourse analysis by Lazar 2007. What we did was we picked up the campaign's tweets from the Twitter using an AI library called Twint. And then we did an analysis of almost 1,067 tweets, which led us to generate 5 themes basis the 3-dimensional framework of Fairclough. So the Twitter discourse presented many agitated digital users calling out the epistemic injustice on Wikipedia that goes beyond the invisibility of women. Their tweets reveal that they want an equal social platform, inclusive of women of color, varied identities, currently absent from the Wikipedia universe. We say that women belong in all places where decisions are being made, but this particular global repository, which is the 5th most visited website in the world today, where are the women? Why are they invisible? And how can we make them visible? We've already seen that gender gap is presented across content, readers, and contributions, whether it is representation, interaction. Everywhere we've seen that there is a gender gap present on Wikimedia and other Wikimedia projects. Looking at one of the important themes of our particular research, gender bias AI, we look at how algorithm failures are ultimately human failures that reflect the priorities, values, and limitations of those who hold the power to shape technology. We must work to redistribute this power in the design, development, deployment, and governance of data if we hope to realize the potential of this powerful advancement and attend to its perils. And that is something which this particular campaign was advocating and working towards. So looking at the SDG 5B goal, that is enhancing the use of enabling technology, in particularly ICT, to promote the empowerment of women, we took up this particular campaign. And the site of our research was Twitter, because that was the most trending social media platform which was looking at feminist activism, inclusivity, and gender gap. The questions that emerged from our literature was, what are the themes emerging out of these conversations? What kind of conversations are these advocates, loyalists of these campaigns doing? And what are the discursive elements that are reflected in this particular campaign? Following this exploratory design, we studied the discursive formations and themes within the text-based tweets of visible wiki women. It's a qualitative research building in its insight on how visible wiki women is being discussed at the intersection of enduring feminist concerns. We looked at the Fairclose three-dimensional framework, wherein we identified and extracted tweets, then we transformed them into codes and then categories, and finally to the themes of the paper. We also thought that a deeper analysis is required, and so a mixed method approach was looked at for the deeper analysis, where a sentiment analysis of these tweets were also done to understand what was the sentiments of the audiences towards this campaign. The FCDA is an important framework to look at how audiences look at feminist activism or campaigns that are supporting SDG 5 goals, and those have been studied in the past. So feminist analytical activism, gender as an ideological structure and practice, complexity of gender and power relations, discourses in the deconstruction of gender, and critical reflexivity and praxis. These were the 5 premises of FCDA. Those were looked at, and this was the lens that we adopted for our study. And in this particular framework, SCDA helped us to expose the historical silences on digital gender divide and understand the power and privileges of these institutions working towards building the digital repository that the world is using. So the 5 emerging themes of Visible Wiki Women campaign as per our analysis were feminist activism, knowledge inequity and gender inequity on Wikipedia, power dynamics in the digital sphere, cultural history and marginalization of women, and technology for women empowerment. All of these 5 themes were derived from 17 categories, and those 17 categories were formed basis those 1,067 tweets, a deeper analysis into those basis the framework that was chosen. More than 350 codes were designed, basis which we finally came to these 5 themes. Under these 5 themes, the categories that were presented under feminist activism, we had notable women deserves a digital identity, building a feminist internet, call for feminist organizations to collaborate, fighting invisibility during global pandemic, events for awareness building. Now, most of these categories right now might not make sense to you, but all of these have been operationalized in the paper, and all of this have been derived from tweets that are present. I can give you an example. For example, feminist activism. This theme was built from the 5 categories, that is building a feminist internet. The keywords that helped us build this particular category were feminist consciousness, feminist mobilization, and feminist network. One of the exemplar tweets to explain how this was derived was, by listening to each other's lived experiences, we change together as a community. We are building a feminist internet. So these audiences were trying to build a collective space, a collective network of hope, a collective network where feminist organizations or people who believe in the idea of feminism could come together and discuss consciousness, build mobilization, and then build a feminist internet, an equal digital space for representing their opinions. Similarly, a lot of editathons, a lot of movements were done with various organizations, I'm sure, which whose knowledge is going to share, whether it is Afro women, whether it is women in red. All of them did a lot of editathons, virtual meetups, and some of them happened in my own country, India. So those were the tweets which gave us the idea that there are events of feminist awareness that are happening, which also form and move towards the idea of feminist activism. So all of these discursive themes which are present in this particular slide were operationalized basis the existing literature, and then those tweets were analyzed to look at how these categories could be formed basis the keywords that were available. Intercoder reliability was checked into it, and then a lot of these have been explained in this particular thing. Then we also looked at sentiment analysis of the campaign and the word cloud using the NVivo software, and that gave us the analysis that visible wiki women tweets were more about the encouragement in the women to move towards getting this visibility. There were no negative elements per se about what is not happening on Wikipedia. There was a collective allegiance towards working towards getting the women representation on Wikipedia. So almost 80 to 90% of the women wanted the campaign to work, and I'm sure that the campaign has been successful and has been still running till date. So of these tweets, of 1,067 tweets, the most visible category for us was visual gender gap on Wikipedia. So visibility, not just in terms of content, but images, audio-visual data, giving that biography a rich text as well as image, so that we can create those role models for people. The next important category was notable women deserves a digital identity. As I already shared, a lot of women who've done so much in the field of STEM, in the field of art, architecture are not present on the on the digital repository, and that's where this particular category holds importance, that notable women deserve the digital identity. Another important skill building category was digital skill building, where women came up and said that we can't be the content editors, writers, or representatives because we don't have those kind of digital skills to be eligible or to be competent enough to be fighting for those positions. So building digital skills is important so that these women can come up and give you the feminist lens of writing a story or presenting a biography on Wikipedia. ICT for women, events for awareness building, all of these categories hold a lot of importance. But one of the most important themes and the categories that I feel holds a lot of importance today is Wikipedia building gender biased AI. In the previous session, in this particular research that Joan presented, she also talked about, and you were asking questions about how these biases are being embedded and absorbed by the Wikipedia, and that is going to reflect as we move towards generative AI, and that is going to be a problematic situation for both the researchers as well as the larger community who's using Wikipedia as the primary information resource. The second aspect that we looked at, the second research question, were the performative functions of the hashtag visible wiki women. And the kind of performative functions we observed were promotion of solidarity. There was teamwork that was visible in the campaign, statements referring to the digital gender bias and invisibility of women, making notable women visible by creating their digital footprints. There was a lot of narration, storytelling, a lot of these invisible women identities were created, newer biography pages were created, some of the biographies were added with images. So a lot of work has been done, which created a narration, a discourse about making women visible, assertions into the norms and ideologies, recreations, in terms of meta-activism. There was online PR that was happening for DGD. There were events happening. All of that actually built a global community for retweets. And then it plugged into another story of how the COVID-19 pandemic also re-showcases the idea that the amount of work that was done by women was invisible. Whether it was the care workers, whether it was the doctors, all of them were not present on Wikipedia. However, there has been some criticism regarding the hashtag that it is being anti-men or attacking the cultural hegemony or the brand's reputation. But I think Wikipedia itself realizes that to hold its position for long, it needs to become and stand on the 5 pillars that it says, and neutrality is one of them. So the discourse on Wikimedia was diverse and included several key aspects of gender inequality in the digital world. From voices on Twitter, it was evident that this DGD is real and has serious implications. The integrated results of both FCDA and sentiment analysis bring together a collective stance which cuts across geographies, ethnicities, socioeconomic backgrounds to build an effect movement for right to digital equality. And we propose that a goal-directed communication on social media can be a potent way to engage with the asymmetries in the issues of knowledge production as well as sharing. We also look at how young females and LGBTQI people's knowledge seekers on the internet will benefit from visibility of women scientists and other women of importance and build a feminist internet as they get their own role models. These campaigns initiate transformative change for refuting the production of history based on marginalization of women, and they also put forward the 2030 agenda of sustainable development goals. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sneh. It was very relevant. See all the work you have presented on the campaign work of Whose Knowledge. So obviously I would like to give voice first, given like that we are likely to have some of the members of the organization in the room today with us. I don't know if Mariana wants to go first.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Pablo, and especially thanks to you, Sneh, for doing this research and for centering visible wiki women in your work. I would like start introducing Whose Knowledge a little bit for providing more context about the campaign. And I am also with Sunshine, my colleague at Whose Knowledge and the current Visible Wiki Women coordinator. So the both of you will be sharing a little bit more about Visible Wiki Women for everybody to get more context about it. So just for mentioning the Whose Knowledge background and why we started Visible Wiki Women more than 5 years ago. Whose Knowledge is a Wikimedia user group, actually. We are part of the Wikimedia movement, but also we are a feminist collective. We are rooted in the feminist movement, especially the feminist movement in the global south, in the majority of the world. We belong to the feminist movement in different parts of the world. And we are a global campaign that is looking for centering and centering the knowledge of marginalized communities, actually the majority of the world on the internet. And we use Wikipedia and Wikimedia platforms as a proxy of the knowledge, justice issues, epistemic injustices that we can experiment online, but especially in Wikimedia platforms. So we pay attention to the biases, to the gaps in both in content and in participation in knowledge building on Wikimedia platforms. And actually, we like to talk more about knowledge justice rather than diversity and inclusion as a framework, because the background of these biases and lacks of information and gaps are the colonial history, the structures of oppression, the structures of power and privileges that prevent that our identities, our collectives are actually present, fully present and fully represented on Wikimedia platforms and in the internet as a whole. And actually, our work is an attempt to redesign and reimagine the internet, bringing our knowledges, our stories to the center, wondering whose knowledges, whose voices, whose bodies are actually at the center right now, actually dominating the narratives and reimagining how the internet can look like if we bring to the center our knowledges, our stories. So Visible Wiki Women is part of whose knowledge, and actually it's a campaign not only by whose knowledge, but we have a network of partners like many different Wikimedia user groups and projects, feminist organizations, memory and cultural organizations. So it's a pretty collective, actually a very much collective initiative. And so based in this background, I want to share our feedback with Sne and with everybody about this research that was a surprise for us, was a very nice surprise to getting the attention of the academy, especially in a university based in India, situated in the global south. So we are very happy with that, and we are really grateful for the vivid enthusiasm about Visible Wiki Women that the research team has, and we really appreciate the work around Twitter audiences, and how these audiences reacts and echoes our campaign and in diverse and unexpected ways, because this perspective is not that common among Wiki campaign organizers, because usually we focus our attention in promoting collaboration and bringing participants and partners to Wiki platforms, rather than in fostering the conversation in social media. We use social media as a communication tool rather than a discussion tool. And we didn't fully note how Twitter users were discussing Visible Wiki Women as a topic itself. And that was very interesting for us to know. And actually, we expected more reactions, even negative reactions, in Wikimedia platforms rather than in Twitter or other social media platforms. So in that sense, this research is very useful, very interesting. We want also to highlight the amazing collection of relevant literature at the end of the work. Is something that in the presentation Sne maybe couldn't share, but we read the paper and the literature is excellent. And as Wikimedians, as nerdy Wikimedians, and as feminist researchers ourselves, we love to see that literature review. And the methodology is fascinating in terms of the data collection, the classification, and the analysis. And reading the paper, we have learned a lot about what we can achieve with what can be achieved having a Twitter data set, things that we cannot understand only with the usual Twitter analytics tools. And all of that can be really beneficial for our campaign and for other wiki campaigns too, for adjusting our approach to social media. However, we would like to point out that the limitation of Twitter messages, as everybody knows, the messages on Twitter are very short. Sometimes important details and nuances might be missed in those messages, and that limitation could maybe in this work, that limitation could have been addressed with other research techniques. For instance, interviews that could expand and enrich the categories of the analysis. Maybe a triangulation with interviews with organizers, partners, participants, our own team, that could be useful as sources that can bring more nuances to and enrich the analysis. Because for moments the paper sounds very much about us, but a little bit without us, with us, I am meaning the whole visible Wikimedian constellation, the participants, the partners, all the people mobilized intentionally for trying to bring images to Wikimedia Commons and share knowledges, experiences. There is a lot of happening around. Yes, Pablo?
Just one quick comment. In the aim of making this more conversation, because I think you're providing like a lot of feedback to the SNES. So I like what you mentioned now about the methodological aspect of the interview. I think it's better if she can address those ones, because otherwise it would be very hard to her to process all that information at once. So
okay, perfect. Let's do that. Yes, yeah, I am done with the methodology feedback.
Okay, so I don't know, Sneh, if you have something to comment on how to expand the work that you have done with other approaches as interviews, or the one that Mariana has commented.
Yeah, so thank you so much. Thank you so much for liking our research. Thank you so much for understanding that since we as researchers come from the global south, we have our own limitations in terms of access to people from Wikipedia. I tried my best. This was my second paper as a researcher that I had written, and I had tried to approach Wikimedia and whose knowledge representatives on Twitter and LinkedIn. But during the time phase of my research, I could not get hold of the right people. But I did get, interviews from people who were present in India, and those helped me build my research design. Those helped me build the way I could look at the campaign without having the actual people or the network of collectives on board for this particular research and the timelines that we were looking at. I also understand the limitations, and like in the previous research, somebody pointed out about having vast geographical coverage in terms of language. So that is a limitation that we also have, because all our tweets are English text-based tweets. No images is something that we could, analyze. We could also not look at other language, tweets. Also, when we had given this paper for publication, one of the important feedbacks that we got from the publisher was about a geographical distribution to understand what kind of comments were coming from which part of the globe. Now, again, a limitation from the software that we were using to be able to do that kind of geographical distribution. However, today I know using other softwares like Netalytic or other softwares that are available for this kind of geographical distribution, and using Twitter API, we can get to this level, this granular level of understanding audiences. So maybe in the future researchers, that is something that people can look at when they are researching about hashtag campaigns.
Thank you, Sneh. I can imagine that Mariana has more questions. I also see some other questions in the queue, so maybe we can go with Leila, then Shani, and then we go back to Mariana in case there are more comments.
Okay.
Thank you, Pablo. Thanks, Sneh, for the presentation. It's always great to hear about your work and all the energy that you bring to these presentations on top of the research. So thank you so much for your continued work in this space. I want to just call out one thing and ask you a question. The call out is that I'm pleasantly surprised to see that the visual gender gap was called out as one of the kind of more important components or things that people were interested in the campaign. So it's just like one point to share. It's very present for me right now. And of course, we have Miriam on the call who will have much more excitement than I about this topic, I'm sure. My question for you was that as you were going to this research before you see the result, did you have any hypothesis or maybe not formal hypothesis, expectations about what kind of results you will see? And did you observe any surprises? Like something, maybe you can share one thing that was unexpected to you as you found out more about from the data.
Okay. So I would not say a hypothesis, but yeah, I did feel that all the audiences on Twitter would be bashing Wikipedia left, right, center. They would be talking about this is not right, that is not right, and how probably even the campaign probably is not doing enough, or the visibility of the campaign is not enough, or it is not trending on Twitter for that matter. This is another feedback that I got. Why are you researching on this? How will you prove the significance? What is its importance in a country like India? My question was that it is the biggest repository of knowledge. It is, for most of the people, it is Google to us. Right? Before ChatGPT or anything existed, Google, and the next thing is Wikipedia. And after 20 years, if that knowledge that we are getting from this encyclopedia is not neutral, it is not non-biased, then where are we heading towards? So I was thinking that this particular campaign, as well as Wikipedia, is going to be bashed out left and center. But what was surprising is that all these audiences were giving solutions, were talking about the kind of contributions that they can make, were also looking at sharing important works, notable women identities, and curating information that could be used and then that can help build the campaign ahead. So this feminist consciousness and that collaborative approach with which this campaign has been started, that was also visible in the audiences that were supporting this particular campaign. So that was something exciting. Another thing which, that comes as a surprise to you was also something that I was amazed to look at, the visual gender gap. As we move towards the era of audiovisual communication, we are looking at the attention span going down the line. We are looking at how video as a social media component is becoming important. Images have become more and more important. People realize that not having a visual digital identity marker is an important thing, and that is what needs to be addressed on Wikipedia. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you both. Sani also has a question to you, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Pablo. And Sneh, thank you from me as well for this research. I think it was mentioned before how important it is to actually facilitate discussions with the general public on these different issues. And I think, your research, the importance of it for me is that it highlights how important social media in expanding our work on Wikimedia projects. I guess, when you talk, I first of all, I have to say that as a researcher, I'm also doing quite a lot of mixed method work. So I find the way that you're working very interesting, and also some of your categorizing and all of that. But my actual work, my actual question has to do with metrics. And I wanted I was curious if, through following these campaigns on Twitter and following so much work around it, were you also tracking the actual results? And like how many images were donated, how many articles were written, etc. And the reason why I'm asking it is because I think that one of the things that we still struggle with as a global community is even finding the right metrics to track. And just having the discussion around that is extremely important. And I think usually social media work just like your research in Twitter, has not been even part of that discussion. So I'm just curious if you're looking at it in your research at all, if that was part of what you thought about. And also commenting in parentheses before you answer that I'm just finishing my PhD on Wikidata as a learning platform. And part of my work has looked at how Wikidata has been helping us close the gender gap and kind of highlighted the missing bits, the completeness. And, you know, Rosie can probably talk a bit more about how the women in red lists that we have actually highlight where we have media or not, whether we have a picture or not, whether we even have a Wikipedia article or not in different languages. So I'm curious also if you have, in a sense, connected the results that you found on Twitter to the work that was actually done through Wikidata. So these are my two questions, and thank you again for this interesting research.
Thank you so much for your question. So like I mentioned in the earlier part, that I was more interested at looking at the audience perspective. Though I started with the idea that I'm going to look at both the perspectives, but you know, like Mariana said, that with doing so much research on a campaign and you do not have the representative from the campaign, then it is a very biased approach, and I didn't want to get to that. So I just wanted to look at the people I could approach to, the people I could give a perspective from. And as a consumer of hashtag campaign supporting SDG 5, I myself was a loyalist of this particular campaign. I was following it all through these 2 years. I just felt that, giving an audience perspective to this research is going to be a better idea rather than a holistic perspective, because I was not able to get hold of all you people. But a second phase of this particular research, probably that I have now in contacts of all of you, is something that I can look at. But I definitely understand that putting up a question on what is not happening on Wikipedia is one thing, and understanding or corroborating the data in terms of what is happening on Wikipedia, and then looking at the gaps and then addressing these questions all over again is going to be a better idea in today's time, with the improved social media analytic tools available and my learnings towards that. So, thank you.
Thank you both for your comments. I don't know if there are more questions in the room. I don't know, Mariana, if you have any other question that you missed to share.
Yes, thank you. Actually, my other comment is precisely about the different social media platforms in which Visible Wiki Women is present, because it is not only Twitter. I understand that Twitter, because it provides or it used to provide, I am not sure right now after Elon Musk, but an API that is a great tool for this kind of analysis. But I want to share that our campaign is evolving. We are turning our campaign more multimodal, multi-platform. We are trying to decenter actually social media a little bit as a space for activism, since these kind of platforms are run by billionaires that can change the rules at any time, and in that sense are so different from Wikimedia platforms. But we are trying to diversify our content among different platforms, but also decentering the campaign from social media. So this is only a note for SNE and for other researchers to keep in mind in next works, because probably you will need, or it will be great to have more plural vision from the social media work we are doing. And I would like to invite Sunshine to add a few words about the future, the present and future of Visible Wiki Women, because maybe that could be useful for SNE and for other researchers to keep in mind how our campaign is evolving and changing in Wikimedia platforms and social media and in other spaces.
Can I respond to that?
Yes, maybe you can respond first, and then Sunshine can do the final words.
Right.
I just want to remind that we only have 5 minutes, so this needs to be a last contribution. I'm very agile because otherwise we will run out of time. But please, Estelle.
Okay, so a very quick one that Twitter has, so all these social media platforms have different uses, and Twitter as a platform is it's a platform where, you know, a lot of feminist activist campaigns have been regulated and a lot of traction happens. On other platforms, specifically Facebook and Instagram, the kind of audiences and the kind of expectation of the audiences from the campaigns are quite different. And earlier researchers have also suggested that Twitter is the most apt platform in terms of API extraction as well as data gathering and the engagement rate in terms of audiences, global audiences on campaigns. However, I understand with coming of Elon Musk and changes in the rules, things are going to be getting difficult. But with the advanced social media analytics tools, we'll be looking at multiple platforms from now on for different hashtag campaigns. Thank you.
Thank you, Sneh. Rosie has...
Just a quick comment on that. I have a 12-year-old granddaughter, and I run things by her in regards to how we are promoting images and articles on regarding women in red. And she tells me that for her age group and high school and college, we need to be on Snapchat and Instagram, and that things like Twitter and Pinterest, those are for you, Grandma. So bearing that in mind, these are the areas that we're looking to develop some influencers who are going to help us in that market and hopefully bring more readers to the articles that are being created and the images that are being put into the articles that we use in the social media process.
Thank you, Rosie. Sneh, I don't know if you want to comment on that or...
I totally agree with the evolving technologies and with this new Gen Zs and generations. The platforms are going to keep emerging and people are going to shift and look at different areas of what are the kind of things that they are expecting from these platforms. So every campaign will have to look at their targeted community and their targeted audiences and find out the right platform for their campaigns, and we are going to follow them for the research. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sneh. This is Sunshine. For some reason, my camera app has refused to open. Situations of tech. First of all, just re-echoing what my colleague Mariana said, thank you so much for this research. And it's more affirming that you're a woman from the Global South at the Global South University who did this. My name is Sunshine Fiona Komsana. I am a feminist and African feminist lawyer based in Kampala, Uganda, and I am the campaign coordinator for Visible Wiki Women. And I just wanted to say that we are definitely going to be continuing with the campaign. This will be our 6th year running. Ordinarily, it would be launched during March, Women's History Month, but there's also conversations around how March is overwhelmed with so much women's history events and conversations, and just being able to also allow ourselves to think more strategically around where we want our campaign to go, and to invite everybody to participate when we launch on the 27th of April this year. Our theme for the year will be on body plurality, as women and people from the Global South, understanding the ways in which different types of bodies are marginalized in digital spaces, in Wikipedia just thinking around celebrating the full uniqueness of our bodies in different sizes and identities. So we'll be calling on partners and allies and academics and activists to just continue to contribute to that body of work with the campaign. And we hope that we see more of this conversation ongoing, and we'll definitely be in touch. So I just wanted to say thank you and also invite you to the continuation of this campaign. So thank you. And thank you, Pablo, for having us.
Okay. Thank you very much for the last comment. So we're now officially out of time. So it's time to thank everyone for joining the Wikimedia Research Showcase today and for participating in this very exciting and lively discussion. I especially want to thank our speakers, Jiao and Sne, for their presentations, our guests, Rosie and Shani, for their contributions, and also Marianne and Sansin Fiona for the content they provided. This Wikimedia Research Showcase is made possible thanks to a coordination team with my colleagues Diego and Emily. Thank you both. And also thanks to Martin for his support with the Q&A on YouTube and IRC. And thanks to Emerald for the support with audio and video. The next showcase will be in April 19 and will focus on images on Wikipedia, and surprise, surprise, like analysis of visual gender biases will be presented. So we welcome you to attend this edition. And also I should mention that there will not be a showcase in May, because May will be the month for Wiki Workshop. So please submit your contributions before March 23rd. And I remind you that this year we are looking for extended abstracts. So the research work that you have either already published, under review, or even ongoing research could be accepted at Wiki Workshop. So see you in a month in the next showcase. Thank you all.